A Closer Identity, a roundtable on queer, Latin, and gender identity. Sometimes we feel closer with some identities than others. Join some of our Twitch Latin Guild members as they explore the nuances of intersectional identities and why at times they have felt closer with either their queer, Latin, or gender identities throughout their journey. We have our panelists, TheHelloSweetie, Asdruboi, Thefunkobeard, Catrina Lovelace, and I am your moderator, Kiwisnstars. Woo! And then everybody will be able to introduce themselves a little bit more as we go on. I promise. So earlier this year, I had a meeting with a Mexican candy maker who we had tried to kind of talk about doing business with the guild. Didn't work out, but he had requested to kind of like come and talk to the guild about his experience about being a Mexican candy maker and why basically his product was worth being high end versus I guess some of the ridicule he got in regards to being like, I'm sorry, the tamarindo down the street I can get, or like the chamoy down the street I can get is like $1. Why would I pay $4 for your bag? Anyway, we would talk to him and we were explaining about our guild program, our Twitch Unity guild program. And when he found out that we had a Pride guild, he lit up a lot more and was much more excited about the prospect of potentially talking to the Pride guild. After that conversation, El Jefenix and I had a conversation afterwards where Jefe kind of was like, he seemed way more excited to talk to the Pride Guild than like the Latin guilds and like, the Latin guild as his people. And I was like, well, if you consider the background, he's from Mexico City. He's quite older. And he probably didn't feel true acceptance until later on in his life when he was around more people who shared this particular identity as himself. And I was like, so being Latino, you're a primo, like you're a primo, you're a prima, you're a prime, like you're part of the family as soon as you walk in. But then like as you kind of add on those identities, like being queer or your gender being other or they them or etc., or like trans, then at that point like that acceptance starts to feel a little weird for some families. Where some families are a little strange or they just don't have the education or they don't know. And so that's when, sometimes your view on your own identities can shift or being like, oh, well, maybe I want to be closer to this community than that community. Or I want to be more in touch with this part of my identity than this one, which is kind of how this whole thing started and why we wanted to host this our Stream for a Cause had a wonderful idea for a roundtable and we wanted to host it. So thank you everybody for being here. And like we said, it's a roundtable discussion. So we're just more so hearing about everybody's kind of experiences throughout this time. So with that being said, if we want, I'll popcorn over to TheHelloSweetie to introduce themselves with pronouns and also your identities.
Hi everybody, I am TheHelloSweetie. I use any pronouns, and I am actually a Mexican Indigenous horror streamer. Sorry, my brain's kind of melted today. It's been a long day. But I actually identify a lot more with my Mexican Indigenous side, more so over than my queer side. I am bi. I do associate myself as pan as well, because back in 2020, that's when I actually discovered how much more I associate myself with pan. But I still like being called bi because that was like my first identity. Like that's where I felt like I knew that I was definitely not straight. But I definitely wasn't there just yet. But yeah, I am appreciative of everybody being here. Everybody's very open-minded, and I am so ready for having this discussion as well. Popcorn, Drew.
Me. Hi everyone, I am Asdruboi. I go by he, him. I am Venezuelan, born, raised, and still here. My identity is definitely a pansexual person. I've gone through the whole straight gay bi pan wave of it all. As time has gone by, so it's definitely been in evolution and a change as time goes by, and I've become a better, I will say, better person than how it used to be. I'm a variety streamer through and through. I mostly focus on story-driven games. I love adventures. I love a little bit of horror. I love a little puzzle. And if the story is good, I'm there. Also, I'm a lovely multiplayer streamer. I do mostly Dead by Daylight on the spare time as well. And I'm also I think we can call myself a game show host of some sort, technically, because I've done tournaments. I run a spelling bee, a cherry spelling bee that we are now about to enter our 5th edition, which is very awesome. And actually, the very first one happened with Stream for a Cause back in 2020. I don't know time anymore. So yeah, I'm excited to be here, and I'm excited to spend some lovely time with my fellow Latin Guildies. I'm a member of the Latin Guild as well as from the Pride Guild. So yeah, it's exciting. I will volley this to Miss Chapulín Colorado, to the lovely Catrina Lovelace.
Hello, everybody. Hi, my name is Catrina Lovelace. I am a full-time New York City drag performer. I am also a part-time chaos inducer, investor, and and on Twitch.
Great.
Literally the chaos is already beginning.
Mhm.
Whenever I am in drag, I do go by she, her, but he, him as well. Totally fine as long as it's respectful. That is all that I always ask for. As far as like what I identify, I have now kind of accepted the fact that I am definitely more gender fluid, but also I'm a homosexual. So that is definitely what I like to identify as. As far as what I do on Twitch, I play a lot of games that give me heartburn and agita. I somehow always listen to chat and do things that are not good for my sanity. And that's what we love. That's what we love. So yeah. And now we're gonna go on down and gonna popcorn to the Funkobeard.
And I love popcorn. Thank you so much, Katrina. Hi everyone, I am the Funkobeard. You call me Funko. I put the he and the fun in Funko, and the bear in beard. My pronouns are he, him. I am Latina, half Mexican, half Chilean, part of the Twitch Latin Guild. I am also a 2S LGBTQIA plus streamer who occupies the G within our community, part of the Twitch Pride Guild. I'm an ambassador for Stream for a Cause, and I'm part of the DVD Creator Program. I stream a lot of Dead by Daylight on my channel. I've been playing it for a very long time. I also like to do other horror variety and maybe some PvP as well. And yeah, thank you so much, Stream for a Cause, for having this, and Kiwi for moderating.
And then I'm Kiwisnstars. My pronouns are she, her. I am one of the. I didn't mean to punch my mic. I'm sorry. I'm one of the 2 Twitch Latin Guild community specialists for this year. I'm also a Twitch community organizer of 8 years. I identify as panromantic demisexual, and just cis with the she, her. And so yeah, thank y'all for being here. Oh, and I'm Mexicana, so my family is all from Mexico. My grandfather liked the white ladies, which is how I look like the way I do. So I love my granny. So but yeah, welcome in. Okay, so now that we've introduced everybody, kind of given the background as to why we wanted to do this panel, let's go ahead and jump into about as far back as we can go. Identity is everything, but can also be confusing. What is the earliest age you remember thinking, I know I'm definitely this, right? We've all kind of known we've been Latino, Latina, Latine, but I also might be this. And what were the feelings around that discovery at the time? I can, let's go with Drew.
I think for me is the fact that as someone who grew up in the late 90s, early 2000s, um, it was a very like weird era culturally, and like overall like worldwide. It was just a very like a time of transitions from the 1900s to the 2000s, and so there is so much different like things to look at, things to enjoy, things to see, but also because of the fact that I am in a Latin American country, I had to deal with the machismo of it all. Therefore, it became a culture where it was men being men, and if you weren't that, it became something that was odd. Therefore, the bullying took place in high school, where you know people just assumed that I was gay, but I never really like thought about it like that. And then as I explored, as you're a teen, you explore, you see things, you are exposed to different things. Then you kind of start to realize that I am definitely not like the others. I march to the beat of my own drum, and because of that situation, I became very closed off. I became very private, very, internalized with myself. And I never really fully like thought of exploring things until I was in college. That's when I really was able to be a bit more free, because when you're in college, you're exposed to everyone. You're exposed to everything. Um, Academy aside, of course. Um, but yeah, I think that's where everything kind of started to click in, and and obviously trauma situations that I'm not going to discuss here. Traumatic situations also occur where kind of put things a lot into perspective as well. So I will say for me, it was the machismo of it all. It was not me being allowed to understand what being queer was until I was forced to by others onto me. So that took me a while to really internalize myself and then become to where I am today.
You could pick the next person.
Okay. Sweetie.
Okay.
Subject, bud.
I kind of figured you would go for me. Um, so when it comes to this, it was not my queer identity that popped up into my head. It was me kind of trying to figure out how I was gonna go around in school, because my last name was a white last name. But when I was a kid, because of how much I was outside, I actually looked like my brothers and my cousins and everything like that. And I do lose color if I don't go outside. So it was, I'm not fully white and I'm not fully brown. And it was a really hard thing to do, because as much as I was hanging out with other Latin kids, they never fully accepted me because I I didn't know Spanish like them. Um, I was I even though like I knew some words, they would be like, "Oh, but you say it weird," and I'm like, but I do. But I say it with an accent, and I'm like, how is that weird? And they're like, I don't know, you just say it differently. And then if I would hang out with white kids, they'd be like, yeah, but you're not really white. And it's just like, but where's the, where is it? What is it? Can I be with one group? Do I have to be with just one certain group? Like, why does it feel like I'm ostracized for my mom marrying a white man? Like, what is going on here? Kind of deal. Um, and so that was my feelings about it growing up, is just like, where do I belong and everything. So when, funny enough, the pandemic was around, I actually started being able to hang out with a lot more people, and not only learning more Spanish, but also learning other languages as well, because I was like, why the fuck am I gonna stay with just Spanish? I was like, nah. I was like, we're gonna try and be a polyglot and everything with languages. I'm like, I'm not just gonna be one language. I'm gonna try a little bit of everything.
That's
So Funko. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
no, I was gonna say that's like a fair point. You're just like, okay, well, if I'm not in this box they've created, why am I going to stay in the box that I should
Mhm.
maybe be? So let me go ahead and just explore all these things.
Exactly.
Well, thank you, Kiwi. And thank you, sweetie. Like, me growing up, obviously, Kiwi mentioned that we all knew we were Latinx growing up because it's. But the funny thing is, it's like I grew up in a very highly Latinx community population. So it's really like all I knew. Spanish was my first language. English was not. So when it was time for me to go to school, when I was 5 or 6, I didn't know English. So I went to school, and it was such a culture shock for me to feel othered, not speaking English. That I remember that the teacher was gonna flunk me and make me take first grade again because I didn't comprehend like the lessons in English as the other kids. But if you were to do the lessons in Spanish, I got it. I knew my colors, I knew my shapes, I knew my everything, and it was like that whole feeling othered and like for me being Latinx growing up, especially when it's centered around that community. That's all you knew as a kid, and going into a different setting like school, and being, in a way, felt shame for not understanding the language that they were trying to school you with. I remember like being like, oh no, why I never dealt with having to speak English when I was growing up because everyone around me spoke Spanish. So I remember that feeling of wanting to um, put that identity aside for so that way I could not feel like I felt left out, and trying to graze on by with fitting in and being and speaking English and wanting to not be ostracized from the kids and the school, the teachers that were even like making me feel othered because I didn't speak a certain language. And um and then on top of that, my queer identity. So that happened when I was 6 years old, and I realized I was queer, gay, when I was 9 years old. So yeah, I had a very interesting childhood, to say the least. But understanding like these different aspects, I knew to me, it was something that I had to deal with and come to terms with. But being able to like see representation in that aspect was very helpful and very cathartic looking back. But understanding like where I fit in might not be um, what I would expect, but it's okay because eventually I was able to find my own community with that. So, oh, Katrina.
So my story is a little like interesting. And the reason why I say that is because I always say this joke in my shows that I knew I was gay before I even knew I was Mexican. Um, so the area is, I'm kind of like the opposite of Funko because the area that I grew up in was very predominantly white. So much so that like even going to school, I was like, my two of my best friends were Jewish, so I was like, oh, I'm Jewish, guys, I'm Jewish. Um,
Done that.
so then the whole thing of like me being like, "Huh, what do you mean I'm Mexican? What?" So it was like it was a whole ordeal. But no, yeah, I remember. So funny enough, like being first generation Mexican American, a lot of parents always want to kind of erase kids from ever learning Spanish because they want their kids to have better opportunities and all of that. But actually, my dad was very adamant about whenever we were home, we only could speak Spanish. So that was something that I kind of grew resentment towards, and I didn't want to identify with any of my Latinidad and not being Mexican. So I definitely explored about my queerness and what that was, and then kind of just trickled in and introduced me being Mexican, because that was when I was like, okay, yeah, this is something that I should be proud of. It's not something that I should be ashamed about. Um, so it was definitely like a very interesting lifestyle that I had to like maneuver through. Uh yeah, and then like then introducing gender fluidity, because I also kind of went through a whole dysphoria where I thought I wanted to be trans, and there was a lot of things that like I actually like went through. Started to grow out my hair, talked to a lot of trans folks that that I have as friends, of like how to begin and all of that, but then realizing that that is not like who I am, or that wasn't what I wanted to do to be happy. I was just doing it because I was getting attention from other people. So it was definitely a very interesting time in my life. But now that I know that like I'm gender fluid and I can kind of just like earthbend or waterbend basically into like both
No,
genders
seriously.
like very easily, like I just kind of, that's why I also fell in love with drag as well, because that is something that I can do and I can become whoever I want to. Like right now, as Drew said at the beginning, Chapulín Colorado, it's like a character from Mexican childhood TV show, and I obviously feminized it, and it's just things that I can do and I can play around with. So yeah, and now back to Kiwi.
Oh.
I love. What do you mean I'm Mexican? I love that. That's so funny. Just like, I'm Jewish. Hello.
Right. I'm like, what am I gonna do with this dreidel? Like, come on.
Where's my bar mitzvah?
Right.
Yeah.
But
It's
I
like
think this is,
quinceañera, it's a bar mitzvah.
yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
bar
Yeah, we need
mitzvah.
both.
Bar quinceañera. But I think it's such a good window into kind of where we all started and kind of where we all like grew up and first kind of had these ideas of ourselves and started getting ideas of like other parts of ourselves. Um, and so, as we grow up and develop our own thoughts and ideals, our identities might become more apparent or move to the forefront of our minds and affect how we navigate the world. As you begin to grow more comfortable with yourself, which, if you already answered this in your previous thing, you can just go over it again and just like condense it. Or if you want to expand upon it, you can. As you began to grow more comfortable with yourself, which identity did you feel closest attachments to, if any, and how did the identities you recognized help you navigate the world? And then follow up in case you just want to like reply to this one specifically. Was it hard to maybe accept your queer or gender identities at some point along this particular way? We'll start with Catrina this time.
Okay. So as as I had mentioned, I definitely explored my queer identity before I explored my Mexican identity, and I feel that when I started drag, actually, funny enough, that was when I definitely embraced being Mexican and being Latino. So Katrina actually comes from the Day of the Dead from Lady Katrina. So that's why it's spelled with the C. A lot of people are like, well, you spelled the hurricane wrong. I was like, no, Diva. No. There's a reason why it's spelled that way.
Oh, Lord.
There's a reason. But yeah, and especially navigating through queer spaces, being a bigger body and a brown person is definitely very difficult, because um it's always going to be catered to a fairer skin tone. That's the nicest way to say it. So always trying to find your community and actually trying to build a community is always going to be difficult, but also occupying space and making people know that you are occupying space. Because at the end of the day, if they're uncomfortable with it, like, you have to learn to be uncomfortable with us being in the same room with y'all, because we're not going anywhere. This is where we are. At the end of the day, we also have a seat at the table. So you got to learn to deal with it. And that's kind of what I've done and what I am doing, specifically nowadays with my drag. And that is something that I am learning to navigate nowadays, to kind of not so much like shove it in people's face, but be accepting of it. And it's like, hey guys, listen, at the end of the day, we are all in the same battle. We are all in the same war. Why are we fighting against each other? We should be uplifting each other. And honestly, like, we are as strong as our weakest link. So why are you going to punch down when we should be lifting each other up? So that's basically what I've been doing now lately. And now I'm going to send it over to Sweetie.
Winnies. So I actually started finding out more, like I said, in 2020 because of TikTok and everybody actually like expressing themselves through everything. That I'm Arrow Ace and gender fluid, and it was kind of hard because I had already been married to my husband for 10 years, and finally opening up to that I don't I don't like getting dressed and looking like a femme all the damn time. Like, it's exhausting, and I feel really comfortable whenever I wear men's clothing and everything. And you know, having a supportive spouse was actually a really, really awesome thing, because while I'm trying to figure everything out, he was actually really, really supportive of how I was feeling and the feelings that I was actually going through with everything like that. What was it? I'm a flirty person, but I'm not very affectionate. I get very touched out very easily. Q's actually seen this happen with my kids.
It's time to stop.
Yeah, I'm all like, I can't stop touching me. And it's so funny because a lot of the times my husband's all like, hold my hand, and I'm like, I really do not want to touch you. I was like, please get away from me. But it's the fact that he understands, like, I do get touched out, and I get touched out very easily. It's just, it overstimulates me way, way too much sometimes, but it's nice to know that I have a supportive spouse that is right there with me and helping me understand everything when it comes to me and my queer identity. So, Funko.
So I have a couple things. The one thing that took me a while to, to figure out is not even like was my nationality. So I'm half Mexican, half Chilean, and especially where I grew up, it was a very highly Mexican community. So anytime I had mentioned I'm half Chilean, I used to get picked on a lot. They're like, "Oh, you're from Chile?" The kids not knowing where Chile was, just knowing that it was Chile. Like, "Oh, you're spicy, whatever." I remember being like, that part of me was like, after a while, I stopped telling people that I was Chilean growing up because of the backlash I would get from people just not understanding like that area of the world. So I remember though, like a lot of the friends I had in high school were all a lot of them were Mexican American, and and my dad was Chilean. So, and I've been to Chile quite a few times, and remember that, what, it's like, why am I gonna like be ashamed or like hide this part of me that is kind of a unique aspect of myself. The country is beautiful, the language is great. It's a different dialect than Spanish from Mexico, and like it's something that I came to terms like in high school while I was surrounded by other Mexican American kids. I was like, I'm maybe proud to be a Mexican Chilean kid. So I was able to feel that comfort. And then a lot of people were like wanting to learn about that background in high school and understand like the types of food that they serve, and that they what kind of like atmospheres are around the community in Chile. And it's very much similar to California, which is where I grew up in. So it's really nice to have a very similar like climate and very similar landscape as well. And then growing up, coming to terms with my queer identity, obviously I'm 6'1", so I'm a big guy, and you know the queer community can be very, especially the gay community, can be very not the most accepting of people who are, you know, a little plus size, a little big and tall. But then I found a community in that called the bear community, and discovering that aspect of the subculture of queer and gay identity, and figuring out like, oh, bear is a bigger, hairier man, or a big, hairier person within the community. And I discovered that identity like in my 20s. And the reason why I have a bear headphones, because it's part of my identity that I am proud that I wear. You know, that I am a proud. That's why it's part of my name, Funkobeard. I put the bear in beard, and it's something that community itself let me feel more accepted and understanding of. You know, I do deserve love, and I do deserve like acceptance for who I am. And yeah, so that's the two things I was able to find and discover and accept within myself. Kiwi.
Okay, I'll pop it up to Drew.
Oh.
So that way Drew can answer, and then we'll go on to the next portion.
Okay, so in my case, I had, how should I put this? I had an identity crisis with both. And I'll tell you why. On one end, with queerness, as I mentioned, like my backdrop of, you know, trauma and everything, I ended up going to therapy for it. And so my therapist was the one that actually told me what, like, how identities work, like how, you know, how do you identify yourself, who you like, how does that work? And so I originally had come out as gay. That was the first thing I identified myself as. Then as I went to college and I started to really see how things work, I was like, yeah, but this doesn't really like fit me, because I still see women and I find them to be insanely beautiful. And you know, I still want to, you know, date a woman and everything like that. So it's not, and it made me realize it's not me liking someone, it's not affection, it's about genuinely wanting to be with someone who identifies himself as a woman. So I was like, okay, then I'm bi, work, no problem. And then as I step out of college and I grow up, and then, you know, I'm able to be a bit more informed about my queerness, about what it is to be a member of the LGBTQIA plus community, and then, you know, interacting with people who are non-binary, people who are trans, especially being on Twitch, it kind of did open up the horizons of like, oh, then it's not just this. I don't care about gender. I care about the human. And so that's where my journey finally landed me into being like, oh, I am pan then. Even though pan and bi share some similarities within their definition, I ended up realizing like, okay, then I identify more as pan, because I genuinely like, you identify however you want to identify. As long as I identify you as someone that I want to be with, that's all it really matters. And so that's where my whole journey came from. Now that's from the queerness side. Now let's talk about the Latino side. I've always said I am the worst Venezuelan you will ever meet in your life. Why? Because I am someone who does not have the educational background, because I did not care to learn about history. I was meh at history. I was meh at geography. Because it was not something that I was appealed to. It's not something that I genuinely care about learning. And so when it comes to learning about what, you know, being a Venezuelan is the fact that I've had to deconstruct myself to be able to slowly begin to embrace my identity as a Venezuelan. No matter how much I generally did not want to be one because of our very, very complicated political situation here. That also really like I don't know if I can swear here. I believe I don't. I shan't. I'll try. But like it did mess me up quite a lot because it was like I don't want this. I don't want to be this, but I'm stuck with this because this is where I grew up. This is where I was born. This is where I have all of my life in. And so having that, it's been a very long process of slowly embracing myself as someone who is from here. And I'm in a better place than I was than I've been before. I still don't know a lot of things, but I do my best. That's all that matters.
That's all that matters.
Yeah.
Um,
Do your
I
best.
think, yeah, you're doing your best. I do think that's an interesting point in regards to kind of whenever you have like an identity that is part of yourself that you're just like, but I don't want to be this. Like, I don't want to be part of this. Sometimes some of that is shame, right? Not necessarily
Yeah.
in Drew's case, but sometimes it's shame. You know, as Funko talked about, you know, his Chilean background and being like even for me I grew up in a super small Jesus school where there were still quite a bit because I grew up in San Antonio, so there's lots of Latinos all everywhere, but not as many at the school. But the people in my class made it seem like being Mexican was like trashy, being Mexican was like all these things. And so, you know, I'm white passing, as can be. And so there was a point where I was like, well, I don't want to be Mexican if that's how people view people being Mexican. Like, I don't want to claim this. No, I don't want this. I at one point even was just like, no, I'm Spanish, I'm not Mexican, which is not true. My my grandparents came from Mexico. My great grandparents on my father's side came from Mexico. Like, obviously it's sprinkled in all of us, but it is just kind of one of those things that because of those outside environments, there was this moment of no longer having that pride you initially had because of those outside factors. And I think growing up, I think it's, you know, from everybody's story is important that we kind of learn to take pride in those identities again and re-find ourselves, such as the case of Funko's story, such as the cases of Drew's, and even Sweetie and Katrina, like in all of our different journeys. So that brings us to sometimes our identities don't just coexist quietly, they can pull against each other or complicate one another. Can you share a moment where two of your identities intersected in a way that created tension, or where one identity felt like it had to take a backseat to another? If I need to explain that more, I can. If y'all are good with it, we'll start off with Funko. Unless you want me to start with somebody else.
But yeah, this is Sweetie.
When you got pushed, doesn't really keep going.
I know. It's okay. It's okay. This honestly, when I was reading it and everything, it was just making me think of when I was talking to some cousins who I thought I could open up to on my mother's side, and it was from my grandfather's side, which is my grandfather and my grandmother. They both immigrated from Mexico up here, and so they're kind of more like strict to the Catholic side. So when I opened up to them about my identity being queer, it was just like not okay, and they're like, you're Mexican. Like, why would you even say that? Like, no, like, this is not the way. And I was just like, okay, I'm not in a safe space. I'm just going to go ahead and get myself out of here. And it was after I'd like just turned 18. And it was just like I was in college in San Antonio, and freaking it was just not a nice time. And it just made me like suppress the fact that I'm queer and everything. And I think that's why like when I was able to be open and honest with my spouse, like it just makes me feel a lot better, because knowing that I I'm able to be open and honest about everything that's within me, like me being wanting to dig more into my indigenous side, or wanting to dig more into like my grandmother's indigenous, or my grandfather coming from Mexico, and just finding family members and everything like that. It's nice to know that I'm able to do that now, but back then it was just I've cut off a lot of family because I was just not going to deal with that, and I was all like, I'm just gonna keep my peace to myself, pretty much.
Oh,
And I'll go with Katrina.
I'm sorry you had that experience, my love.
You know, and I am so much happier without him.
That's the part. That is it. Um, so when I was reading the question, I found it difficult to actually think of a time where I wanted to exclude or hide a part of me, because I actually, in a lot of instances throughout my life, I actually married both of my identities of being queer and Latine. Um, the first one that I can remember is when Pulse Orlando happened, and there was a lot of talk, especially here in New York City, when the parade was going to happen. Was that there was going to be people that were going to be coming and doing the exact same thing here. And I remember talking to my mom, because my mom literally that day, she was like, please don't go. I was like, Ma, if anything, like, we have to show that we are queer now.
Mhm.
Like, people need to see it. People need to like visibly see that I am queer. Um and now, especially now in this political climate, like, I've definitely married both of them because um unfortunately, like, a lot of the movements that are happening, a lot of the people that are being affected aren't able to be on the front lines, because they're going to be the ones that are going to be targeted immediately. And I feel like a lot of the queer community is always the ones that are on the front lines, helping out with these causes. So, funny enough, my drag daughter, one of my drag daughters, her name is Harriet Tugsman, and she did a well, like Drew said, I can't curse. She did an F Ice fundraising show where we were able to raise, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, $8,600, and half of those proceeds were going for lawyers that were going to be doing the work, and then the other half was actually like immediately going to the community. So she went through a bunch of people's GoFundMe's and like gave them the money to be able to actually like help out those families. And that was definitely she's in the chat right now. But yes, um and like, she is from the South, she's Black, and me and her, like, when she brought it up to me, it wasn't even a question. I was like, what do you want me to do? What do you need me to do? Where do you want me? What is it? Like, I'm gonna be there regardless. Like, I'm going to make it happen. So yeah, I definitely have never alienated a part of myself. If anything, I've always married them together. And I'm sending it to Drew.
So I think I can provide a different perspective on this. And the reason for that is, as I mentioned previously, I am born and raised in Venezuela. I am here in Venezuela. Um, um, and the situation here is that we don't really have a lot of legal protections for queer people here in Venezuela. Um, we still haven't passed any marriage equality laws. People are not still fully like in the full. I'm not gonna say both. I'm gonna say myself. I'm not gonna generalize anyone. At least for me, I don't believe that there is anything also to protect those partners or couples who want to adopt babies as a queer uh, partnership. and many other laws that I don't think they exist. Again, I'm saying me. I could be very wrong. I will admit if I'm wrong. Okay, and so that's a fully different situation, because then you have to go. Do I want to be fully out and knowing that there is a high likelihood of not being protected in case something happens? In case someone tries to hurt me, someone tries to attack me, someone tries to do whatever, is there something that can protect me? And I don't think there is still in here. And so it is so complicated to be queer in a Latin American country where the views on queerness are still so backwards. They're still so backwards. This is a country that is mostly Christian. This is a country that machismo is still like, it's not as big as it used to be, but it's still present. And so even today, I still feel like I have to sort of guard myself with situations even within my own family. Like the little side comments of the they thems, of the edges, of the how do you say this, but they add the E to it. So it's like it doesn't become serious, it becomes jokey. And I'm like, to the point where I've had to get up from a table. I've had to look at someone in a very nasty way to be like, stop it. And they need to count their lucky stars so I don't go off on them. And so it is still so like complicated to be queer in here. However, I will say, for the last couple of years, I've seen more and more people not being afraid to do things that are maybe out them. I've also been able to see that there's been some within Pride Month, the people who have done marches. That's been very lovely to do. I remember one time, it was something that was local here, and I went there. It was by a pier, and it was like a gathering of queer people and everything like that. And then there was a moment where people just there was someone who did drag that came in and did a little show. And then I was not in the mood to really interact like that. I really wasn't. And so in that little pier, there's a little place where you can climb up and then you can look down to people. I think like the perspective, not, you know what I mean. But it came a moment where people just started voguing. People just kind of like did a little circle, and then people just started voguing and doing it and just dancing and feeling it. And then I remember staring at that and going like, I wish this was more common. I wish this was more accepted. I wish that people could see the joy in people's eyes and souls and everything, knowing that in that space, at least for those moments, for those minutes, that they are safe. And that was so precious to see. And so I want to continue to see it more, but I also need the legal side of things to come in as well and protect people. Unfortunately, the marriage card has been used in the political sense as a like I don't know how you say this. I'm so sorry. As a political like
Climate?
yeah, it's like if you vote for us, we will eventually get to this discussion.
Yeah.
And so that has been brought up. It has been done. So that's why I go like we are starting to see things, but right now we are not there yet. And I am heartbroken that we're still not there yet in 2026. And I'm trying not to curse. Kiwi.
Funko.
Thank you. Yeah, so growing up in a Latino household, obviously your gender is being the boy. I was the youngest of three boys. I have two older brothers, and I know like the names calling when they would see, and just like people in the community would say queer people say, do the F slurs and all this. So my father and my mother weren't always the most accepting. And I know when I eventually came out, having to deal with the machismo of the household, because it was all guys. My brothers were jocks. I was the sensitive, artsy, creative one, like if that wasn't a tell. And
No.
but then like I remember I wasn't disowned, thankfully, but I was on my own for like the first 6 months after coming out. And eventually I was brought back into my family. And looking back, I realized, and I got some perspective, that as queer people, we deal with our identities, we deal with our sexualities, we accept it, or we don't, and that's a process that we go through in our lives, to get comfortable who we are, or if we're not comfortable with who we are. And I'm lucky because this doesn't happen for everyone. I'm going to acknowledge that to begin with. I'm going to acknowledge that this does not happen to everyone, but speaking for myself, it happened to me that my family eventually came around, and I understood that it's a process for them as well. When parents have kids, they have this whole lives that they imagine for them, and when things are different and things don't go what they expect, they can lash out. They can be awful. They can be whatever. And we don't know what they're going through. They don't know what we're going through because we're dealing with it, right? With our lives. And what I learned was that they needed time to process it too. And they needed time to accept it because what they had planned for my life was not the direction where I was taking my own life. So dealing with that comfort and where that my identities met, where I was comfortable with it, they learned and grew comfortable with it as well.
I love to hear that. I also love that throughout y'all's stories, we've heard answers to like what our last question was basically like, looking back at the identity you felt closest to earlier, has that shifted? To which, if we want to answer that all very quickly, we can, or we can just kind of wrap up, everybody kind of talk about how they're feeling now, let everybody know where to find you. So I leave that up to the group, but I've loved hearing like sprinkles within the stories that you all have told from your experiences about how you felt, how you've repeatedly come to being like, no, this is who I am, or okay, well, like this is the decision I have to make about who I am. But I just thank you all for sharing your stories, and it's been really, really great, and being vulnerable and being willing to like share this portion of you all here today. But okay, so do we
Can I go
want
first?
to? Yes, go ahead.
No.
Yes. So, rude, Drew. So for me, I've always been comfortable being gay. I knew from a very young age, like I mentioned, I was 9 years old, and I knew it. I just knew I was. It's just always known. I've never really questioned it. I just always knew that's who I was. But the one thing that I always dealt with was being Latina. Because at a very young age, I was ashamed. It was cause to be ashamed of it. And what made me very comfortable and identifying with that, it was, was the Latin Guild. Being part of the Latin Guild really helped feel comfort for community and feel seen. And I'm forever grateful for it. I've always a champion for the guilds, and the Latin Guild is one that I cherish with all my heart. And I'm so happy to have found this community in the past 3 years. And so learning and growing with y'all, it's like been a beautiful thing. So thank you all for sharing your stories that resonates and also can share with. And thank you.
I'm
Sweetie.
actually, I was gonna say, I'm actually gonna piggyback off of Funko because it wasn't until I actually joined the Latin Guild that I was just all like, but I don't. I was like, I don't speak Spanish because when I met Jubby and Elix at Las Vegas TwitchCon, when the guild was actually opening up to like affiliates and everybody else and whatnot, they're like, okay, Anne. They're like, you're Latin, right? And I was like, yes. I was like, I'm Mexican. And they're like, okay. They're like, so sign up. What are you stopping? Like, what's happening and everything? And I was just like, okay, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry for doubting y'all. So that was my thing is now, I'm so happy for literally all the guilds, especially the Latin for starting it all out for me and then getting into now the Pride Guild and the future guilds that are coming upon us. So, Drew.
So I think for me, especially now, obviously the journey I went through to identify my pansexuality was a very important thing that I generally discovered through being here, through being exposed to different people from different backgrounds, from different parts of the world, from different periods in their life, and it was very important for me because I don't really have a lot of friends and also not a lot of friends that are queer. And so that kind of worked for me to be exposed to that in a way. And then now that I'm in the guilds, I will say I did not take it seriously at first. I will admit that, even though I hounded Funko for months to be like,
Not kidding. I'll show you. I'll release the
no,
DMs.
no joke. I was hounding
That's
Funko for
wild.
information. And then when I got in, it was like, yeah, I got in, and then I didn't do anything. Then when I had a very big health crisis that required surgery and everything, I was just recovering, and I was like, well, I'm here, but I don't really like interact with people. I mean, so why not go for it? I guess. And girl, I feel so bad about
We
these
can't
poor
get you to
people.
stop anymore.
Look at the positive diva.
I know.
I know.
One of the biggest yappers.
Girl, yes. But it has been so fun to be able to get to know other ways to be Latino or Latin by meeting these people and so many others who are in the guild as well. And then when it comes to the Pride Guild itself, same. I was in the same thing. And then I'm very happy that now I'm more comfortable there too. It took me a while, but I'm glad I got there. And I believe the connections that I've made with the people in the guilds have really helped me out so much for the past year and a half. And it's been such a blessing because not only that, but I was able to also like flex up my degree, my college degree in audiovisual production, and I think that I've been able to show that through the events that I've been able to do, and that's been just such a joy to project my creativity into the tournaments, into the spelling bee, into charity streams and this and that, and also be able to collab with so many wonderful people has really been just a huge plus as well. So I'm very grateful for the past year and a half that I've been an active member of the guild. So thank you. Catrina.
So it's funny that like Drew is volleying it to me because so like I was saying throughout the whole entire time, I've been like very accepting of everything and marrying my identities. But one identity that actually I have now resonated a lot and I'm trying to kind of like explore is being a gamer and being like nerdy and also being gay and Latine. So funny enough, an IRL friend, they actually they directed me to Drew's stream, and
Yep.
I was just like always like chatting it up with them. And I remember that Drew mentioned the Twitch Pride Guild and the guilds in general, the Twitch Pride Guild, the Twitch Land Guild, and they were telling me, "Oh, you should apply, you should apply, you should apply." And then I remember it's so funny because I got accepted to the Latin Guild in May, and then the Pride Guild in June, and then both instances I was like in the waiting room for like a while. So I I quite enjoyed it because I was able to meet and kind of interact with all of the people that were also being accepted at the same time. So it felt like a graduating class. I really enjoyed it a lot. Um, but yeah, it definitely has like opened up so many opportunities and able to like interact with so many people, so much so that like how Drew said, like collaborating with so many other people and uh knowing that there's so many chaotic people as well as I am. So that's always fun.
Y'all be yapping and y'all be so chaotic. That's okay,
Yeah.
because so am I. So am I. So
I don't know what you're talking about. We're innocent.
whoa,
right.
I don't know what I'm talking
The
about.
one yapping guild.
Yeah.
I'm so proud of that. I know. I'm so proud of that. I took a look at the stats and I was like, yeah, we don't shut up, but I love it. It's great. So, well, thank you all for sharing y'all's experiences. I know briefly for like some of my experiences, it was like up and down, like the question about hiding yourself. At one point, growing up, I was always the tomboy, and my father and my parents would always be like, "Oh, there goes Lana. She's just a big old lesbian," and I'm like, I like anime men, and I like plaid. So I don't know what that says about me, but I don't think so. But then at one point when I got older, you go to college, as Drew said, you like sit there, you get accepted, or like you get, and I
You
grew
learn
up in
things.
you learn things, and I grew up in a very conservative, like Christian plaid anime wed. I know plaid anime wed, a super conservative, like Christian, like background, and so like being gay was like completely out of the question. Thinking of all these other things were completely out of the question. But at one point, even with that small background, deciding to go to college and being like, well, I've never been exposed to like all sorts of life or all sorts of people. And so it's just like, well, how are they gonna like me and how am I gonna like them if I don't go with like an open heart and an open mind into all these different kinds of lifestyles? Because life is so complex. It's not just one way. You don't just live life one way. There's not one background to come from. And so it was just kind of one of those things like where at one point it was like all right, well, I'm not going to think about any other parts of this or myself or anything else because this is the way life lives, but I can be accepting of everybody else. So it didn't end up becoming like we didn't feel completely whole until we started accepting all of us, sort of thing. My father one day made another joke about me being a lesbian, and I was just like, yeah, Dad, I like ladies. And then it was quiet because my cousin, who had not come out fully yet, and he were there, and I was in a plaid shirt. I just happened to be that time. and everything was quiet. And
Were any men in the background?
yeah, literally, I've got them all back there. But what's it called? I'm in this plaid shirt, and it gets dead quiet. And in that moment, I was like, haha. Great joke, right? And so I like literally pulled it back and I was like, okay, now's not the time. But even with being Latino and being super white, super white passing white, coming into the guild, I was really scared initially, and I was very quiet for a long time because I was like, I don't want me being part of this to be seen as me taking space from other people. And to which the whole reason I joined is because in San Antonio, when you're Latino, you're part of the family, you're primo, you get accepted. And I wanted something like that online too with my identity. And so this year in particular, because I was just so scared, and this year has been such a great year for like acceptance, I think, in regards to being like, no, like I've always known what I am. And by continuing to validate you, continue to get validation from here, continue to like sit there and be like, no, like we shouldn't be validated by colonizer language, or that shouldn't be what validates us. It's really, really helped me with like acceptance as well. So I also am learning a lot from you all too, and I thank you all for your experiences and for me being able to kind of watch y'all's experiences as well throughout the guild. So that being said, uh, jokes aside, everyone deserves to be validated and everyone deserves to feel comfortable in their own skin or plaid shirt. I don't really be wearing plaid no more, but that's a pass to me. She's gone. But if we're okay with a few moments for questions, we can do questions. But if not, then I would like to, well, first while people type, because chat is
Delayed.
takes a little bit sometimes. Yeah, chat is a little delayed. Thank you all for being here. Thank you to everybody who tuned in to say hello. We will start off with Funko, and then we'll go around. If you want to let people know where they can find you, or if you want any kind of shout out you want to give, go ahead and do so.
Yeah, you can find me at twitch.tv/TheFunkoBeard. I host a DVD Survivor Challenge every Saturday called Three's the Party. We're about to announce our guests for August, which is exciting. And as well as another activity I'll be doing August 22nd. Stay tuned for that. That'll be a fun announcement. And you know what? I'm called the Funko Beard because I collect Funko Pops. And here's a Funko Pop of me wearing plaid.
No.
So just keeping that up. And you can find me on all socials as well as under the Funko Beard. Sweetie.
Hilarious.
So I am the HelloSweetie. I am Mexican Indigenous. I am bi. I'm plus size. I'm all everything. I'm a wife and a mother, and I may be friendly and I may have family, but that does not mean that we are family friendly in my stream, as we are 18 plus. Because chat, not me, but chat likes to get a little sus. I am actually a part of the Women's Guild, the Pride Guild, the Latin Guild, and the Indigenous Alliance, which will soon be a guild. And I play a lot of horror games, but I'm actually a variety. So I've dabbling into some dating sims and some other simulation games, because why not? But yeah, you can find me anywhere under the HelloSweetie. So that's me. Drew.
No.
Yes.
So you can find me at Asdruboi. I'm Asdruboi everywhere with an I at the end because I couldn't secure the Y. Usually right now I go live at least 5 to 6 days a week. Weekdays after 3 p.m. EST. Then Friday, Saturday, Sunday after 9 or 10 a.m. EST. Right now, I am about to do something very awesome with the Pride Guild and with Behavior Interactive. I'm a part of the Day by Daylight Into the Rainbow Raid Train that is happening right now, and I'm very excited about it. My slot is on Monday at 5:30 a.m. EST. So. Yay!
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 Cafecito!
I can start my day
so
with
much
DVDs.
cafecito.
Hello, so
Yeah,
much.
for reals.
Besides that, I am planning on doing my second edition of the Choose Your Own Summer Adventure. Is a summer event that I do for a month, and I do story games that are based on multiple choice. So I'm looking forward to playing at least one of the games I can announce is that I'm doing Dispatch, and I'm very excited about that. It's my first time playing it.
Dispatch is good.
And then I can't wait. It looks so great. I haven't tried to not spoil myself too much, but I'm excited. And then September, October is going to be filled with events related to Hispanic Heritage Month. So that's something to look forward to on social media and everywhere. Something to announce that upcoming. And also right now, this month in August too, I am going to be doing a wonderful Mario Party Jamboree tournament members of the guilds. Something to look forward to as well. And playing a lot of things. So yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Katrina.
Damn, after going after Drew, I'm like, I got nothing exciting going on.
You do. You have something
I do. I do. I do. You can catch
Open a
me
ticket
on
with the event plan.
that part. Hold on, doing it right now. You can catch me on twitch.tv /Katrina Lovelace. You can also find me on all social platforms: Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Grubhub, Seamless, Katrina Lovelace as well. But yeah, I stream every Tuesdays and Thursdays. I'm actually going to be collaborating with Drew on Wednesday, and also Dello, who is another member of the Twitch Latin Guild. We're going to be playing Content Morning.
Thank you for reminding me. I forgot.
Wow.
You're
wow.
welcome.
Typical Drew. Typical Drew.
Drew is just too busy.
But yeah, you can catch me anywhere there. And yeah, that's really much it. I'm probably going to stream after this because this face is too good to go with a ways, honestly. So
Mhm.
probably gonna do that. We'll
That
see
would.
if it happens or not. I'm also hungry, so we'll see.
Fair. Thank you all for being here once again. I'm Kiwisnstars. My pronouns are she, her. I am one of the two Twitch Latin Guild community specialists for this year. Who said that? I know. I looked off as if there was like a whiteboard I was referencing. There's nothing there. I just had to take a moment. And I am one of the Twitch community organizer for Stream Texas. So I like getting streamers together. So if you if you're in Texas and you're a Tejas and you're a streamer and you like meeting other people / you need an excuse to go touch grass, come to my events. Typically, the part of the reason I love doing it is I think we need to be the change we want to see. And if we want spaces where we see people like us, then we need to organize them, and where people can see that, like, you know, it's fine to be queer in Texas. Like, it's good to be yourself here, because if we don't do it, then other people won't. So, or somebody else will, but we don't know when. But anyway, so that's what I do.
Also,
But you
Kiwi
can.
is really, really awesome. Meet her in person.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. But yeah, so that's pretty much kind of, you know, we're just hanging out on Twitch. If you are a streamer and you identify as Pride, Latin, Black, women, Indigenous, disability, or Asian, any of those identities you fall under, go ahead and fill out your streamer survey. And if you just type in Google the Twitch Unity Guilds, you'll find the Airtable. Apply to become part of the Unity Guilds. They are spaces for people to connect with other people of similar cultural identities or like orientation, gender identities, or, you know, disability identities as well. So more just, you know, if you live in a space that doesn't have a lot of people that look like you and you want to meet people that look like you on Twitch, those are the spaces to do it. So anyway, thank you, Stream for a Cause, for hosting us for this event and giving us the platform to be able to talk. We appreciate it. Yeah. We appreciate it. Thank you all. Yeah,
Hold on,
thanks for Stream for a Cause.
I'll put the
Thank you for
application in
having
chat. I'll put the
us.
application in chat.
Thank
To
you
apply.
guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Apply to the
Like,
guild.
my hands are
Yeah.
all like,
Now you now have no excuses. Apply.
hi, Gummy. Thank you. I appreciate it. Alrighty, friends. Well, that's all for us. Time for a sketchy Facebook Marketplace pickup.